Assalamu alaikum, shalom Islam to all the Moors. Welcome everyone. This is the free astrotheology course. I am Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School. Let's pick it back up. We are still in chapter 10 of the Celestial Ship of the North, volume 1. The author is Emma Valencia Strayton. All right, this is volume 1. We're on page 168. So 1 plus 6 is 7, plus 8 is 15, and then 1 plus 5 is 6. So that's the masculine pole, of the Hermetic law of gender. Okay, so the opposite end, the feminine end, would be the number 9. Of course, 10 is 9. And what else can we say? Of course, 6 represents the testicle and the penis. Okay, the regenerative cycle of life. All right. So anyway, let's get into it. So page 168, the last paragraph. All right, y'all. You can find this book on archives. I think I got it off of archives.org. I don't remember. It feels like a long time since I've gone live, and even it just seems like I haven't been doing it enough. But I've been so busy, everyone, with the different projects that I have going on. But anyway, hopefully I'll be able to wrap those up soon and get back to at least every other day live streams. So here we are. So the first chapter of Genesis, the first creators are called Elohim. Elohim. So you guys see L, O, and then him. Him, he. L, O, him. Of course, L is one of the appellations that tie our people back to the land, to demonstrate that we are the rightful heir to the land. So anyway, let's begin. In the first chapter of Genesis, the first creators, so talking about Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, are called Elohim. Genesis chapter 2, the creator, the deity is called YHWH. All right, so these are different. In fact, if you research this in a good Bible dictionary, it's going to tell you that Genesis chapter 1 is not a part of the original book of Genesis, but that it was inserted. It was inserted there shortly after Babylonian captivity, and it's actually the Babylonian, or a remix of the Babylonian creation story. But it's none of those. Y'all watch the video that I did on Genesis. I think it's called Genesis chapter 1 and 2, a critical analysis, or critical analysis of Genesis chapter 1 and 2. Y'all watch it and you'll see what it is. There's no dogmatic beliefs in it. I take you through the etymology and this kind of stuff. And you get to see that Genesis chapter 1 is a completely different story than Genesis chapter 2. Completely different. Okay? And you'll also get to see what Genesis chapter 1 is actually talking about. Anyway, let me leave it at that. So here we are. In the second, this is the second chapter of Genesis. So in the second, the divinity is called YHWH. Upon the authority of biblical chronology, the Elohistic texts were written 500 years after the date of Moses. Okay, y'all? So this is saying that Genesis chapter 1 would have been written 500 years after Moses uh, either was born or passed away. Wow. So that's Genesis chapter 1 was written 500 years after Moses. Perhaps his death or his birth. It doesn't really matter, right? He continues, while the Jehovistic, so that's Genesis chapter 2, while the Jehovistic text were written 800 years after Moses' day. So this is saying that the Babylonian text is older. Genesis chapter 1 creation story with the Elohim that's alleged to be the Babylonian creation story. They're saying that that was written 500 years before. So my question would be, what form was it written in? Right? What form? Was it written as the Babylonian creation story? If I remember correctly, it's called the Enuma Elish. But y'all, I'm not sure. Y'all gonna have to check it. So was it written as the Enuma Elish, or was it written in its present Genesis chapter 1 form? And then the author is saying Genesis chapter 2 was written 800 years after Moses' death. So it would be younger than chapter 1. But when you look in a Bible like I said, when you look in a Bible dictionary, a good Bible dictionary is going to tell you that Genesis chapter 1 was not a part of the Genesis story. So what is this telling us? Perhaps, perhaps the Genesis story, or at least the story that has to do with YHWH, wasn't written. That doesn't mean it didn't exist. It just means it was not written until 800 years after Moses' time. All right, y'all. But anyway, let's see where the author is taking us. So it says here, YHWH was first the mother, and Elohim, her progeny. What is this talking about? The Elohim were always 7 in number. There were 7 powers of eternal nature, first born in space. Then came the 7 stars of the goddess mother. Y'all should already know who he's talking about, right? Later represented as the auxiliaries of Cronus. When the time, and interesting enough, he has time capitalized, the T in time capitalized. When time, with time and the measuring of cycles. So he's talking about cycles, the planets moving, or heavenly bodies, let me put it like that, stars moving in relation to each other. So they start at point A and then they return to point A. That's a cycle. All right. So let me read this again because I kind of broke it up. Jehovah was first the mother. So Jehovah was first a cheap knockoff of the great mother typhoon. How about that, y'all? So Jehovah was feminine. Feminine. And of course, the great mother is also the Holy Spirit. Do y'all see it? Everybody see that? Jehovah was first the mother. Now, this explains why Catholic priests wear long dresses and why Christian bishops and and cardinals wear dresses. Let me show y'all. See, it's a secret to the masses. But when you know what the story is, when you see them in these robes, you understand that they're paying homage to the real zodiac and the real science, even though they pervert it, right? Even though they use it in a predatory way. All right, y'all. So in other words, they are aligning themselves through symbology. They're aligning themselves through symbology in their icons and in their dress, right? And in their doctrine, they're aligning themselves with the real astrology, with nature. All right, now do y'all understand that? Jehovah was first the mother. So when the Solarites came into power, when they destroyed through warfare, deception, birthright theft, when they destroyed the great mother and her son sit the dog star, I'm talking about people who had the mindset of their ancient foremothers and forefathers. What is it? Circle 7, clock of destiny, natural law, don't steal, or stated otherwise, don't harm anyone. And then the workshop of the mind infused with emotion. If y'all don't know what I'm talking about, go back and watch the videos. Maybe I'll talk about it some more on that topic. Okay, y'all? All right. So these were people who cooperated with each other. These are Aboriginal people or autochthonous people sprung from the soil. Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. Moors by lawful definition. The heirs or heir apparents on planet Earth. Okay. And this, he's representing the great mother. But what did he do? He put it white. Why? Because he's a solarite. So this is representing sunlight. And what is sunlight, y'all? Sunlight is an illusion. It is a reflection of the ancient darkness, or let me state it a different way. Sunlight, or what we perceive as sunlight, does not have its origin in the sun, according to our ancient ancestors. The sun is a reflector. Okay, the planetary, the stars are reflectors, and they reflect dark rays. Everyone understand? Now, think about this. As above, so below. As above, so below. Now, think about this. When we go into consciousness, as within consciousness, the ancient darkness, absolute blackness, or like the Muslims say, the black Muslims, they say the triple darkness of space or something like that. Okay? So consciousness, completely black. But yet, what we see in our lives is a reflection of consciousness. In other words, the dark rays, the dark energy that is consciousness. Whatever we focus on, whatever self-image that we have, whatever we feel intensely about, whatever we believe, it's going to reflect in the physical realm where there's sunlight. And that's going to be your situation and circumstances. Does everyone understand? Your situations and circumstances are a reflection of your consciousness. In other words, the light that you see, the situation and circumstances around you that you can see because you have eyes, are a reflection of the ancient darkness. So you are, connotatively speaking, in the way they talk these days, you are God. In your universe, you are God. So now let's go back to space. The central sun is emitting dark rays, and they are reflecting what we call stars. And we perceive that as light. but it is not light. It is reflected darkness that we perceive as light. Do y'all get it? Do you get what's happening in the physical realm where we have the central sun emitting dark rays that reflect off of all of the stars and the sun, and we perceive it as light, and now we can see? And then the darkness, the ancient darkness. What is man? Man is a sun. You mean perhaps a central sun? Perhaps the ancient darkness, consciousness, the central sun? Okay. And what we focus on, what our thoughts focus on, and what we feel intensely about, and the stories that we believe are reflected, are reflections. In other words, y'all, you can program someone from birth, from not even from birth, from in the womb. And when they exit the womb, this is the Hermetic law of gender, the abusive or predatory use of the Hermetic law of gender, the cuckoo bird egg phenomena. Y'all see it? Where you condition someone by telling them stories, indoctrinating them, okay, using science as a weapon and fake science being taught as true. And now this person believes, certain, for example, they believe that they are black, right? They believe they came from Africa on a boat. They believe that there are these gods, and one's a father, the other is a son. You're going to burn in hell if you don't do this, if you don't listen to the preachers, you don't follow the preachers' instructions and orders that are supposed to represent what God commands. Then you're going to go burn in hell, or you're going to go enjoy yourself in heaven. These are all stories. And when you believe them, just like if you believe anything else, it becomes reflected, or it gets reflected into the physical world. I hope everyone understands me. Now, look, he has on, I believe this is a cardinal. He has on black and red, a black and red dress. What is that about? Well, that's the great mother typhoon, the ancient blackness. And red, if I remember correctly, uh, red is Venus. If I remember correctly, I think, yeah, red is Venus. Hold on. Let me check it. I need to make sure. I forgot. So wait a minute. This is no, this can't be right. Hold on, y'all. I'm rusty. It looks red, but let me make sure, okay? Let's see. Okay, so Mars, but it's not. We're not dealing. I don't want to deal with Mars. Mars is not what I'm talking about. Ah, wait a minute. Maybe. Wait. Let's roll with Mars. Let's roll with Mars. Y'all know why? Y'all know why I'm gonna roll with Mars? Hold on. I'm wasting time. Hold on. Give me a second. Gosh, I don't like it when I forget things. I go on a goose chase, y'all. Hold on. I remember going over here. I don't remember which planet is white and a mix of white and red. A mix of white and red. Which one is it? Oh, sorry. We'll skip it. It's not. Let's finish chapter 10. But anyway, y'all see. Now let's look at other religious leaders wearing a robe. So they're wearing this robe, y'all, in homage of the Great Mother Typhoon, the feminine energy. They will never admit that. They will never admit it. But that's what it is, in fact. See, the goal is to keep you out of harmony with nature, to keep you at odds with nature, right? Because when you are aligned with nature, when you are aligned with nature, then nature works for you. Remember consciousness, right? Your consciousness has to be aligned with nature. And then you can reflect, becomes more easy for you to reflect from your consciousness. Well, there's a whole lot involved. But anyway, let's continue. Jehovah was the first mother, and the progeny, I'm sorry, and the Elohim, her progeny. The Elohim, her progeny. So we can look at this in two ways. Jax writes, I wish this is what I was taught at 7 or even 18. Oh, me too. Me too. I effed up 30 plus years of my life in Christianity. This is truly the greatest information I've ever heard in my life. Thank you so much, Doctor. Oh, Jax, it's my pleasure. That makes me very happy to hear um, that the work I'm doing is benefiting you. That there's nothing more satisfying than that. And I mean that from the sincerity, the deepest part of my heart. Thank you so much. Okay, y'all. Now the Elohim, two ways we can go with this. Remember, if we go into C and Bay tells us that the Elohim are the sons of the mother. The mother is the great mother Typhoon, the mother of time cycles, represented by the thigh of the great bear, today called the Big Dipper, made up of 7 stars. 4 that make up the Dipper, which gets remixed into the 4 corners of the earth. Initially, it was the 4 corners of the world or the 4 corners of the universe. All right. Now, if you connect the dots in the X, if you connect the dots in the right and lower opposite corners, okay, law of polarity, and then the other way, upper and lower corner, what do you get, y'all? You get an X or a 10, and a 10 is 9, made up of 4 stars. The Dipper is the universe or the celestial matrix. The celestial matrix, the door exiting out of the celestial world and the entrance into the earth plane, where man who is thought made manifest has his entrance at the second star in the handle of the Big Dipper, which is called Mitsar, remixed into the solar zodiac as the Mazarah, that old path that the prophets talked about. The Most High told my people to turn back to the old path, but they said no. They refused to. Right? Y'all remember that verse? Okay, so we Aboriginal men and women, Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, have our origin in Mitzar, which later gets remixed into Mazarah, the belt around which, that old path, the belt around which each of the 12 zodiac signs are arranged. Do y'all understand what this is saying? And at some point, I think it's volume 2, we're going to get uh, into the fact that our ancient ancestors said that the dark central sun emitted an aurora, and this aurora was later subdivided into what they're calling zodiac signs. Now, if that's true, that means that these segments of the aurora account for the energetic effect that we now attribute to the current zodiac signs. But we'll get into that later. Jack's right. So would we go by UTC time? I'm not sure, Jax, if I understand. So everyone sees now. So those are the 7 stars. Those are the 7 sailors, the 7 heroes. They get remixed over and over and over again. Now they can also be uh, uh, also the Elohim can be Sut, the firstborn son of the great mother Typhoon. Sut, the dog star in the south celestial pole. So we have the north celestial pole and the south celestial pole. So the thigh of the great bear, the handle of the great bear is the minute hand of the clock. Soot, the dog star in the south, is the hour hand of the clock. So together, that's the clock of destiny. And y'all know that all prophets were astrologers. They read the stars the same way you read your Bible. For those of y'all who have good reading comprehension skills. Brandon writes, Dr. Yusapa is live and in living color. What's happening, Brandon? Good to see you, man. Brandon, I wish you could have joined the live stream, man. If you want, let me know and I'll send you the link. Y'all heard? So this can go 2 ways. Now, if it's singular, it would be Sut. It would be Sut, the dog star in the south. Jax writes, UTC is coordinated universal time 5 hours ahead of USA time. So I don't remember us talking about the time like that. That was my thing. So this is what we're dealing with, y'all. Let's continue. So the Elohim were always 7 in number. So the 7 stars that make up the thigh of the great bear scholars is the origin of all 7s that are held holy throughout the Bible. Y'all do a Google search about the number 7 and its relationship to Scripture. All 7s across all religions, across all mythologies, trace back to those 7 stars that make up the thigh of the great bear, today called the Big Dipper, from which you have your origin, because man is thought made manifest from the soil, and that thought is coming from the second star in the handle of the Big Dipper, or the thigh of the Great Bear, called Mitzar. Thought, that's you. That's you before you're transformed into this fleshly body, which is a clothing of soil that becomes flesh. You're coming out of Mitzar into the four stars that make up the Dipper of the Big Dipper, which is the celestial womb, or the exit door. And you exit the celestial womb through those four stars, travel to the earth plane. Thought interacts with soil. Conscious. See, thought, what is thought, y'all? Thought is the activity of the mind. Mind is the first Hermetic law, the Hermetic law of mentalism. All is mind. So thought is the activity of the mind. Think about that. Thought is the activity of the mind. The mind in action, be it imagining, be it uh, visualizing, be it analyzing, contemplating, remembering. The activity of the mind is thought. Man is thought. Man is the action of the mind. Man is thought made manifest from the soil. Thought interacting with soil and being clothed in soil. And we produce these beautiful fleshly physical bodies. And for those of us who are Aboriginal, Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, remember the topic here is Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2. When thought, the activity of mind, the first Hermetic law, and importantly, scholars, we have to keep in mind that each of the 6 other Hermetic laws have their origin in the Hermetic law of mentalism. So I ask you again, with all sincerity and respect, hoping you'll wake the up. In the famous words of my grandmother, who is you? Who is you? Do you know who you are now? Do you know who you are? Can you acknowledge it, accept it, and use these faculties, powers of the mind that people call God? Or will you keep on bowing down to external fake deities who are nothing more than a fake remix, a fake reflection of you? Now, how? I was going to use some dirty language, but I won't. I was going to say, how effed up is that? How effed up is that? They got you so, when I say they, I'm talking about the colonizers, the Solarites. They got you so disoriented in space and time, so disconnected from nature, therefore disconnected from yourself, that they got you worshiping reflections of you. The Elohim is our you. Be you a man with the womb or a man without a womb. They got you worshiping cheap knockoffs that don't even work of you. Huh? The Elohim were always 7 in number. There were 7 powers of eternal nature. Firstborn in space, y'all got that? There were 7 powers of eternal nature. He's talking about Elohim. Brandon writes, the Most High brought us into this world and he will take us out. LOL. Okay. Dale Dillette. Wow, I recognize that name. Dillette11 writes, what is wrong with YouTube chat? I am entering chat, no response. You know what? Jax writes, also, can you talk more about the aurora? I'm going to go into the aurora very heavy. Not today, because I don't understand everything right now. But I can tell y'all what it appears to be, and maybe I shouldn't because people might get mad at me. But it appears that the the constellations uh, may not be real. So I've got to complete the research uh, to identify the best arguments against the constellations actually existing, and I need to find actual photos of the constellation. I haven't been able to find that. I haven't been able to find it. The Lot 11 writes hologram. So I haven't been able to find it, y'all. You know, you should be able to go out on the first day of spring at 5:30 to 5:45, just before sunrise, and you should be able to look at or a little bit above the horizon, and you should be able to see the constellation of the zodiacal age. It changes every 2,160 years or so. But on that first day of spring, when the sun is just about to arise, you should be able to see the constellation. I haven't seen any pictures. So Jax writes, we trust your understanding, doctor. Trust me. I appreciate that. Oh, Darrell-El, what's happening, man? Good to see you. I enjoy those emails too. I really enjoy those emails. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. You've been a great help to me. So I want to acknowledge you publicly, Darrell-El. Thank you so much. Uh, See, and so if this is the case, because what we see, uh, uh, Doorbell writes, "You're welcome." If this is the case, y'all, if it's an aurora and the aurora is segmented, then all you need to do is throw some zodiac signs in there, and you can add as many zodiacs as you want, which is what they did. Now, I remember reading in a book. Well, I think most people. Well, it's not. It's commonly known that Virgo Scorpio were at one time one big, huge constellation. And when the Solarites took over and they converted Soot the dog star into Savick Ra, the solar god, y'all heard? They just remixed it. They put a crown on his head with some horns, and he became the Lamb of God. They put him in Aries, which would have had to have been a new constellation. And because they did that, now see, this is the original fall of man, y'all. This is the story about the original fall of man, the astrological solution, not the biblical story. The biblical story is a remix of the astrological, okay, y'all? And that is always the case. So now, since they have Aries, they need to have what? To fulfill natural law. There needs to be an opposite end of the pole. And this is where they separated uh, Virgo Scorpio, and then they brought in Libra. They just brought in Libra. So now, y'all, by my count, that's 4. So Virgo Scorpio was one big constellation. They broke it up, so now you got two. They put Libra in there. That's three, and now the whole cause of that is Aries. That's four new ones. Darrell-El writes, "Is that the scapegoat?" I haven't thought about that. I haven't thought about that. From this perspective, I haven't thought about that. From this perspective, the horns are representing rulership. So the great mother Typhoon and her son Sit the Dog Star. Now, y'all remember, the great mother Typhoon and Sit the Dog Star, this is real science, not religion, okay? Not religion. So what's happening here, Felix? Felix, welcome back, Felix. The constellation at the spring equinox in the east is almost past Pisces and into Aquarius. Yeah, absolutely. And interestingly enough, this author in 1927 said that we were in Aquarius. Very interesting, right? Very, very interesting. So here's the problem with that. I would love to see Darrell-El Rice remember the scapegoat got its cast out. Yes. So here, let me go back to that. So the ancient mother Typhoon and her son, they get destroyed by their own people, by the Solarites. So Soot, they transform or remix Soot, the dog star, who happens to be in the South. So that's principles, right? The natural law of don't steal or love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Transform him into a solar god and put the crown on his head with the goat's horns. And now we see this, Darrell-El, we see this as Moses coming out of the mountain with the horns in some of the iconography. The other iconography will show Moses coming out of the mountain, and his face is glorious, shining like the sun. So Darrell writes, destroying could be casting. Yeah, could be. I have to give it some thought because I've never thought about it. You know, I'm I'm the kind of person who I stew on things. I'm obsessive like that about certain things. But I haven't thought about that. You made me think. Where was I? What was I talking about, y'all? I did the ram's horn. The ram's horn represent rulership. So it was the degradation and the destruction of the great mother Typhoon and her son Soot the dog star, who represent mastery of the natural sciences. Circle 7, clock of destiny, reckoning time and reality by the stars, by nature, y'all. Y'all follow by nature, not dogmatic religious doctrine. And then, of course, the workshop of the mind, where both the left and the right brain hemispheres are balanced, relaxed, and in harmony with one another, somewhere around 10 cycles per second, the waves. And then with the infusion of visualization, imagination, and intense emotion as a practice. The best time to do it is when you're going to bed. And then after you practice a long time, you'll be able to wake up with that same practice. And as a result, those dark rays reflect into the light and become your situation and circumstances. Be they painful or glorious and wonderful? Darrell writes, NTR. Oh, absolutely, Darrell. We have to think outside of the box. Absolutely. Okay, y'all. So this is what's happening. That's what's happening. As above, so below. As below, so above. As within, so without. As within, consciousness, right? The ancient darkness, which is what the ancient Egyptians, people today would call God, the ancient darkness, which is what which is what I just described. So there was no need for external deities. Darrell writes, how can we trust any system when the ultimate goal was to control the masses? Absolutely. But the Great Mother Typhoon and her son, Sit the Dog Star, it wasn't about that. It was about the alignment. I think you have the background to know what I'm talking about, Darrell. It's about the alignment with the self-image and the will with nature. In other words, there would be no ripples, no flaws in your self-image. Your self-image would be a crystal clear reflection of the ancient darkness, meaning that you knew that you could create whatever circumstance and situation you want in your life, be it health, wealth, or healing yourself or healing someone else. You knew it. You believed it. You didn't doubt. You didn't doubt. Okay, you knew that whatever you wanted to do, it was on you and you could do it. Not having to go pray or beg to an external God. See, that's the control mechanism. And they got us worshiping representations of ourself. Okay, man is an SON, which is a SUN. And they have people in the religions worshiping what? The SUN, remixed as an SON. You know what I'm saying, yo? Which is you. So let's continue. So there were seven powers of the eternal nature. These were the Elohim, or connotatively God, the gods, first born in space. The gods were first born in space. How? Man is thought made man is first from the soil. Coming from Mitzar, the second star in the handle of the Big Dipper, exiting out of the celestial womb, the four corners that make up the Big Dipper. Y'all see it? Firstborn in space. Then came the seven stars of the goddess mother. This is the Great Mother Typhoon. The Great Mother Typhoon is the hermetic law of gender in its feminine function of producing, for example, producing time with a cycle. When the Eye of the Great Bear, today the Big Dipper, makes a rotation or revolution around the pole star. Okay, that first one, that's the beginning of time. Okay, y'all? Uh, Darrell writes, watery depth. Absolutely. And y'all know water refers to the Great Mother. And something else I learned, that Pisces traces back to the Great Mother and her son, Soot the Dog Star. Darrell writes, time backwards is emit. Oh, wow. And then, of course, circle seven. The circle seven is the seven stars. See, the seven stars, the Big Dipper, the Thigh of the Great Bear, is a representation of the Great Mother Typhoon, who is the Hermetic law of gender, which is the second most prominent, the first being the Hermetic law of mentalism. The Holy Spirit is the Hermetic law of gender, the feminine function. That's why in the religions they say that the Holy Spirit is called Sophia, a woman. Y'all, do y'all see that? The how that's hidden in there. So she is the mother of all beginnings, including time and space. Why? Because our ancestors drew a boundary around that which was bounded, a boundless, which was a circle, right? And then we get the squared circle and the triangle, right? The concept of the universe, the realization that whatever God sees, God commands. Y'all remember we went through that based upon the mathematics of a circle, right? And where Ra comes from, why is the solar god called Ra? Well, because the circle of the universe, the radius, and the area, okay? Radius and area, circumference of the circle. Did everybody remember that I did like maybe 3, 4, 5 videos on this? So our ancestors discovered pi, right? Discovered pi. The whole process, y'all, I did a video on that if y'all want to know how this, what I'm talking about in greater depth. Then using squares and triangles, further discovered, uncovered algebraic and geometrical equations and shapes and figures and so on and so forth. This is why the Moorish culture has to do with mathematics. We call it the code of law, scaling from 0 to 9. Felix writes, the black rock fell from heaven. It was worshipped at Delphi and other places, and a piece of the blackness of space, but it arrives in light. That's very interesting. Darrell-El writes, deacons in time, devil. All right. Lived backward. The enemy of man is time, that is the devil, and demons in our minds, mortality. Absolutely. Absolutely. So y'all, they have done a job on us through language. That's why I appreciate Darrell-El so much, because Darrell-El is an expert on etymology, and they have destroyed us, conquered us through etymology, through denotative and connotative word games and spells, meaning stories. So not just mythological stories, but stories that they make up in law. Y'all know that a lot of these European laws have their origin in plays, the concepts and things like that, like the mask, right? The characters in the play, they wear a mask, and their script, they're acting out a script which is not who they are. So, for example, if you are driving a car, you are a driver. So you are playing these different roles. It just goes real deep. But I tell y'all what. Well, let me not say anything because I don't want to. I don't want to give someone an opportunity to f it up. Let's keep going. All right. Okay. So then came the 7 stars of the goddess mother. That's the great mother Typhoon. Later represented as the auxiliaries of Cronus. When with time and measuring of cycles, creation began. So this is talking about when the great mother Typhoon, uh, you know, the made her first revolution around the North Pole star. All right, y'all. Let me see if I can find this really quickly. I want to show y'all more precisely what he's talking about. If I can pull it up really quickly. All right, here we are on page 11. Very interesting, right? Page 11. Okay, so this garden was placed at the north. This is the Garden of Eden. The Egyptians called it Sais, Sais, and Proclus remarks, quote unquote, it partakes of a particular emanation, Darrell-El, emanation from God. This is the Garden of Eden. The North Pole itself, the North that was called sacred, the home of the constellation of the Great Bear, the Genetrix, that's the celestial matrix, y'all, whose 7 stars were the 7 sailors who watched over and ever will watch over the celestial sea. The celestial sea gets remixed into the Catholics' holy sea, holy, shiny, glory, as in a star, right? As in a star. Okay? That's what it traces back to. Heli, holy, El, Elohim. Okay, y'all? And of course, the holy sea gets used in a predatory way, and we see it come out as the uh the merchant. What is it called, y'all? What is the law of the sea being brought on the land? Okay. So this goes on and on and on. So I just wanted to make that connection for everyone. Let's continue. Page 169. So 1 plus 6 is 7, plus 9 is 16, and then 1 plus 6 is 7. So 7 completion, right? Let's continue. All are readily identified with the sevens of many myths and are Egyptian, Akkadian, Babylonian, Persian, Hindu, Britannic, Kabbalist, and Gnostic prototypes of the 7 powers who were considered the creators, as it were, of human beings. Now, this is where, let me come back to it. Before the supreme being had become anthropomorphized. That was before there ever was a external God, as we know it now. Let me see. Darrell writes, minister is ministerial, which means character. Absolutely. Bishop means holy see position. Absolutely. And you know what else they would do? The bishops used to do? It escapes me. The the bishops would look into space. Of course, the space is a holy see, and they would stargaze. They would watch and observe the stars. All of this stuff, y'all, is astrology. All this stuff in the religions and in the mythologies is astrology. They're telling the same story, but see, they align themselves with it, but they give the masses dogmatic religion. Okay, and they really have you under a spell, a powerful spell that's hard to break for most people. All right, y'all. So let me repeat that again. Who were considered the creators? These 7 powers, Elohim, were considered the creators, as it were, of human beings. What human beings, y'all? Is he talking about Han Uman? Han Uman, Hanum, An. Han Uman. So let's contract that. Let's delete the an. Human. Human. So the Elohim created the humans from Genesis chapter 1. In other words, the Paleolithic caveman. Y'all understand me? This is the Yaqub story, in my opinion. All right. So the Elohim created the human beings. Look up human, y'all, in a law dictionary. You know what it's going to tell you? A human is a monster that is non-descendable. In other words, it can't. The human cannot inherit anything. This corresponds with Esau, who who was not given any land of his own. Right? So he has no birthright. And he has to pillage, and well, he doesn't have to, he chose to pillage other people's land. Everybody see the parallel? Jehovah Elohim was supreme as Jah, the Hebrew Lord as, now y'all, this gets very interesting. This, let me show y'all this before I even start. Look at IAO. Look at IAO. This is a very interesting story, y'all. Can y'all see that? This is a hell of a story. Yeah, thanks, Darrell-El. Admiralty law. It's a predatory and abusive use of Admiralty law. Okay, y'all? Where the ship represents the celestial ship of the north in Admiralty law. Y'all see this in the federal courts? They have a lot of buildings that are made like ships. These ships are supposed to be the celestial ship of the north. The celestial ship of the north is the thigh of the great bear, today called the Big Dipper. That's the celestial ship of the north, brooding over the celestial abyss, the vast, boundless celestial seas, having inside of it all of the DNA blueprints of every living and non-living thing on the planet. Now y'all see what this whole Admiralty law thing is really about. When you go past the Christian doctrine and you take it back to the original zodiac, y'all see what it's about. Let's continue. Y'all take note. Jehovah Elohim. Now they're combining Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2, right? Jehovah Elohim was supreme as Jah. Now, y'all, who is Jah? If you look up Jah, y'all go to, I think it's Strong's number 113 or Strong's number 111. It's I think it's Adon, either Adon or Adonai. You go down, you read toward the bottom, maybe the middle of the second to the last paragraph, something like that. You're going to see Jah or Yah with reference to deity, right? It means supreme deity. Okay. And then you go to Strong's number 1180, you're going to see that Yah, Jehovah, is a symbolical name for Baali. Now, in the Christian religions, Baali is a demon, the devil. But in astrology, Baali is the sun. It's just another sun god, right? JC is a sun god. YHWH is a sun god. Okay, y'all? So this is part of the mind control. Right? These are all sun gods, but guess who the real sun is? The real sun is you. The Hebrew word as Io. Listen, y'all. I-A-O. Letter I, letter A-O. I-A-O. Three of them, okay, y'all? I-A-O. All right. The Hebrew word Lord as I-A-O. Jah or Jehovah. The supreme was symbolized by the number 10. Okay, now 10 is 9. 10 is feminine. Okay, now what does it mean? You go to Strong's uh, 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 3068, look up the divine name. What is it going to tell you? The Jews, that's a religion. Darrell-El writes, Bacchus also means evangelist. Darrell-El writes, that connects to Bacchus. Absolutely. 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 Now, y'all, Strong's 3068, what does it mean? The Jews, this is the religion, not a bloodline people. The Jewish religionists said you cannot use the divine name because it's too holy. It is off limits. They'll execute you. So what did they do? They hid the pronunciation. So they replaced the vowels for Adonai, if I remember correctly, right? They insert vowels for Adonai. This is how you get Jehovah, Yahweh, and all that other stuff. Why did they do it? To hide that YHWH in its initial rollout was feminine, was a woman. How can they show that when they push the patriarchy? Huh? Y'all see that? Y'all see the deceit and the scandal, like they say in Asia, the scandal? So y'all see what's happening here? Now we're getting this is what's going on. Jehovah Elohim was supreme as Jah, the Hebrew Lord as Io, I-A-O, Jah or Jehovah. The supreme was symbolized by the number 10, and 10 is 9. Go back to C and Bay if y'all want to know more about that. As a matter of fact, 10 is 9. What's 9? 9, the circle at the top is the uterus, the womb. The line going down is the vaginal canal. Okay? Which represents the beginning of all things that we talked about earlier. Uh, let's see. Darrell-El writes, that's just like JC hiding stuff. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hiding stuff in parables. Absolutely. Because y'all remember, this is a battle for the mind. And at this point in today's world, the vast majority of you Christians and Muslims have surrendered. You have surrendered. It's not even a battle anymore. Y'all just totally, y'all totally turned out. I can't think of anything else to say. You've been totally turned out. Even in the 1800s, they were saying that the Christians were totally turned out. Just go read the Devil's Pulpit. He talks about how stupid the Christians were, like children. So Doorbell, CM Bay rather, takes us into a discussion about why 10 is 9, based in nature, not religion, based in nature. Okay, 10 is 9. So when you know how to read the signs and the symbols, you can actually uncover or discover what's really happening. And so Is it just information, y'all? Is this just interesting stuff that's fun to learn? No, absolutely not. No, hell no. This is the mindset of our ancient foremothers and forefathers being recovered, being restored to us. What does that mean? That means it puts you on a pathway of aligning yourself with nature, and you are nature. So that there's no distortion between your self-image and your will, and that is unchangeable. Don't they say the Most High is unchangeable? He don't change, right? That's perfect. So you will reflect perfectly. Okay, you will reflect the ancient darkness perfectly in your situation and circumstances. And that's what we have to go back to, because that perfect reflection ain't got nothing to do with religious beliefs or who you screwing, who you sleeping with. Ain't got nothing to do with that. Right? We have one natural law in the universe, which is don't steal. Which means don't injure or harm someone. Jax writes, facts applied knowledge. Absolutely. So when you perfectly reflect the ancient darkness, that means your situation and circumstances in your life and your health is going to be wonderful. You have no limit except for the limit that you place on your own imagination, your own ability to know, to accept, to acknowledge who and what you are. Okay, y'all? So if you have a situation, and by the way, circle seven, clock of destiny, workshop of the mind, guess what? Time is not a factor there. Time is not a factor there. That means you don't have to worry about how long, when. I got to do this and I got to do that, and I got to, the logical pathway or the logical steps we might uh, figure out or think about in order to get from A to Z. Oh no, you don't have to do that. See, whatever God sees, God commands. Now, do you understand the mathematics of it? Whatever God sees, God commands. What you see about yourself, no matter where you are in the circle of the universe. Why? Because consciousness is in all places at the same time, but you are where you are based upon what you focus on. Huh? That is to say that what you know, time ain't got nothing to do with it. What you know, when you activate or when you align your consciousness with the ancient darkness, it will happen. It will happen, but it will only happen once you know it. Some people might say once you believe it. Okay, in other words, you'll see it when you believe it. You'll see it when you know it, when you have no doubt about it, and it has become part of your self-image. Oh, what time do you close?
10.
It's 10 already?
Yeah.
What time is it now? It's 10?
No, if it's 2.
Oh, it's about to close now.
Yeah.
How much are we? How much? I forgot.
31.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So y'all heard? So this is the mindset of our ancient foremothers and forefathers. If you got a issue, let's say a fake case. For those of y'all who don't know what I'm talking about, you got a case, all right, or you have some other issue. The workshop of the mind If you align yourself with nature, it will position and bring into your life everything you need in order to get that done. Now, y'all might not accept that, you might reject it, but I tell you what, I know from my experience that it works, and it is 1,000% reliable. Now, you may say, okay, thank you. That may be that may be your introduction into learning how to handle cases. All right, but the ancient darkness will solve any problem and give you any situation and circumstances that you want, that you believe, that you know you are. Huh? And that's the fact. Now, this is the mindset of our ancient foremothers and forefathers. Circle 7, clock of destiny, workshop of the mind, as I stated before, and natural law do no harm. This is the culture. This is what a great men, as a matter of fact, this is what Noble Drew Ali said. We autochthonous men and women, we Aboriginal men and women should go back to the mindset of our ancient foremothers and forefathers. So who are you to say anything to belittle that or to say that it doesn't hold power? Especially if you don't know from experience. Jax writes, great live as always, Doctor. This has been a new breakthrough for me. Jax, I'm so happy to hear that. I really, really am. Y'all understand? This is the power. This is the way. Now, do you need to know how to write affidavits? Yeah, it helps. But when you go into the workshop of the mind, when you return to the mindset of your ancient foremothers and forefathers, that will come to you and you may not even need it. Huh? But definitely it will come to you and it will and you will learn. How you think? Let me tell y'all something. How you think, and I'm not boasting or bragging, I'm not trying to say anything, okay? Anything in a pompous kind of way. How you think I've learned what I learned and know what I know? Through this practice. Through this practice. That's what transformed me. And I have magical event after magical event happening in my life all the time. And I don't deal with gods, devils, and demons. I don't deal with religious doctrine. I don't deal with any of that. But what people call miracles, I have them every day. And I'm not saying that to boast or brag. I'm just trying to emphasize to you that no matter what situation you are in, miracles are real. Because there is no time in the ancient darkness. There's no time. There's no logic. What there is what you know, and that creative force that moves consciousness, that moves the universe to make what you know to be true about you when you are aligned with the ancient darkness to appear in your life. Boundless, boundless. The people, places, everything will come into your life with little to no effort. In fact, no effort. Felix writes, one rule to rule them all. All the rest are man-made. Absolutely. Absolutely, y'all. So the culture, the ancient Sabian culture, the ancient Aboriginal culture Sabian, Moabite, Canaanite, Kimite, Israelite. These are all aboriginal nations of people. We are one people, okay? One people. And the conquerors have divided us through stories. Huh? Like, for example, let's say your father got 5 sisters and 4 brothers. They're all your family. But you got a friend or one of your own family members, they go in and start talking, maybe a narcissist, right? They start turning people against each other. Huh? That's about what I can say about that. Now you have the our own people hating each other. When the enemy, when the enemy are the, y'all get this, are the Han Umans, are the hybrids. Not all, not all. Just like not all of the Aboriginals are our friends. Many of them, many of them are traitors. But y'all know the point. The point I'm trying to say is that this is a matter having to do with birthright theft. The hybrid, the Han Uman Paleolithic caveman, and the Aboriginal Moor working together to steal the masses of the rightful heirs, the Aboriginal Moors' birthright. And how are they? How did they do it? How did they do it? Through law. I can't wait to show y'all the document that I put together. I sent it out to some people, but I have enhanced it, added a lot more, made it a lot better. Okay, and I'm not gonna say anything else about it, but y'all look out for it, okay? Because this will transform, and y'all gonna see it. You're gonna see it. It's gonna transform anybody who uses it and sees it. It's gonna transform your life because it takes away. Well, let me leave it at that because I don't want to draw. I don't want bad things to happen. I'll be back. Thanks everyone for joining me. I'm gonna send the document out to those who want it. So just hit me up if you want it, um, and I will gladly give you a copy. Assalamu alaikum, shalawama, Islam to all the Moors. I'll see y'all hopefully tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow.